Uh-oh.
I want to make some money. You know, you think we've been through 2 years with Conor Benn. You know, we've lost a huge amount of money on that first fight that never took place. 7 figures. Yeah? What's this, a Chris Eubank charity show? I mean, you know, it's not down to me to give him money myself so that what? We lose money again on a show. The reality is this. At 50-50, the fight happens now. Yeah? At 55-45, it probably don't happen. But, like, who knows? And sooner or later, we're going to miss the boat. So, at the end of this week, if we don't have the fight made, Barrios, we move on. Oh, listen, Conor wants to fight Barrios. I like the fight.
If Chris goes the Lara route and Conor goes the Barrios route, what's your prediction for both fights?
Look, I think Conor's been out of the ring for a long time. But Barrios isn't the best world champion that we've seen. But I don't think he's at that level yet, or has been at that level. I think Chris, I know they're desperate for him not to take the Lara fight, but I think Chris beats Lara, and I think we've been looking at that Lara fight for a long time, and hopefully it can get close.
That's the question, isn't it? Is Conor Benn on the level of Mario Barrios, who isn't the strongest welterweight champion today? No, he's not the strongest, not the best, but he has been in there with the likes of Gervonta Davis and Keith Thurman and Yordenis Ugas.
Conor has not proven so much as a welterweight that he is a shoo-in to win a Mario Barrios fight. Maybe that's the reason I want to see it, because it's not a foregone conclusion that either man wins.
Those are the most interesting situations at any level in the sport of boxing, the ones where the answer isn't quite clear. That's why you tune in. You tune in to find out.
Is 10% really going to be what decides whether or not Benn versus Eubank happens, though?
It's not that I'm a big proponent of that fight, because I'm not. Reads more like a novelty act than a legitimate contest based on nepotism and surnames.
But that's going to be what kills it. 10%.
I'll fight him on road. My team didn't even tell me the offer. It was that pathetic. I don't think he wants to fight in general. He ain't gonna go near Janny Beck. He ain't gonna go near Hamza. He ain't gonna go near
Lara.
Lara would smash him to pieces.
To the point that Conor Benn is making, it's not a foregone conclusion that Chris Eubank beats Erislandy Lara. It isn't. That if you're gonna leave all that money with Conor on the table,
it's more than you stand to make with Lara.
Team Benn won a 50-50 split, whereas Chris Eubank seems to insist it's 55-45.
10% is what's gonna stop this from happening.
I'll tell you something. Chris Eubank Jr. is getting on. He's in his mid-30s, and it would be a disaster. It would be catastrophic if you walk away from the Benn money to go into a Lara fight and then lose?
Lara can still punch.
No, his legs aren't what they used to be. His legs aren't, but power. His power is still there.
He's rolling a dice.
Chris Eubank Jr. is. Does he view Lara as a safer option because of his age? Because he's registered as being in his early 40s?
Maybe. But he is a naturally bigger man than a Conor Benn, a more well-schooled boxer, and more experienced.
More experienced than Conor. In some ways, he's more experienced than Chris. The way it looks, Conor Benn might stand a better chance of beating Mario Barrios than Chris Eubank stands a chance of beating Lara.
Think about it.
Who's a more decorated fighter? Mario Barrios or Erislandy Lara? Erislandy Lara is a bona fide two-division champion.
He's competed at a much higher level for a longer duration of time than either Mario Barrios, Conor Benn, or Chris Eubank Jr. than a lot of them.
And this is Chris's alternative to a Conor Benn fight. You wonder that he's not setting himself up to fail. In any event, that's the way this is looking. It's looking like Conor's going to fight Mario, Chris is going to fight Lara, and let the chips fall where they may.
We're calling Luis de Cubas, and you guys said, next week. Okay, no. Fuck that. You want to talk about that?
Okay,
I had
guys.
to call PBC and tell them if we didn't take the VADA test that we're going to cancel the whole because you guys didn't want to test. Now we're drug testing.
Listen, we wanted to fight you for the last years. What are you talking about?
Guys, this is it. We need to finish this. We end finish this media workout right now.
I'm going to slap the shit out of you, puto. Vas a ver, pendejo.
Guys, thank you so much for being here today. The fight will be on February 1st. The fight will be on February 1st.
These are theatrics to me. When David Benavidez is insistent on VADA testing ahead of a David-Morrell fight, while he has Memo Heredia as his strength and conditioning coach, what that tells me is this is all an act.
I saw Memo Heredia say that Team Morrell is extremely mad because Team Benavidez asked for VADA testing. It's incredible the storm shit I am getting from these scumbags. We're all for clean boxing.
Yeah, right.
I remember when David Benavidez first hired Angel Heredia as his strength and conditioning coach. We know that David Benavidez has never been the ripped type, the body beautiful kind. Yet all of a sudden he gets with Angel and he's got six-pack abs.
I remember how he looked with Demetrius Andrade. He cut through him like a hot knife through butter.
I remember.
And then I remember that Angel Memo Heredia had a falling out with David Benavidez's father, and suddenly he wasn't helping David prepare for his move up to light heavyweight, his fight with Alexander Vojdik, where he didn't look like a monster, where he didn't look sensational, where he didn't plow right through the guy like he just plowed through Demetrius Andrade. Didn't look body beautiful either. What happened to those six-pack abs?
Coincidence? I think not.
After that lackluster showing that a lot of people are lying to themselves about, after the Vojdik fight, they brought Memo back. Gee, I wonder why.
You're saying you think David is dirty.
I'm saying that if people are suspicious of Victor Conti due to his past, you can be suspicious of Angel for the same reason. It's the same shit. I hear people say it all the time, that all of those Snack Systems fighters are dirty based on Victor Conti's past. Well, I can use that same association game with Angel Heredia. He's got the same history as Victor.
You think David is dirty.
But if you think David is dirty, why is it David Benavidez's team insisting on anti-doping testing?
They gotta make it look good.
If you're on something and anybody knows how to beat the test, knows how to hide it, it would be Angel Heredia.
Do you think it's a coincidence that David looked one way when he had Memo in his corner and he looked another way when he didn't?
And now he's brought him back. The entire melee about VADA testing, Team Morrell not wanting VADA testing.
You think Team Morrell is dirty?
Yep.
But I don't understand. If David is on a sauce and the other David is on a sauce, then why is one insisting on VADA testing and not the other?
Because one David is trying to cripple the other. You see, if they're both on gear, if they're both on something, then it's more or less an even playing field. Your sauce versus my sauce. Your gear versus my gear.
Even playing field.
So why would a guy who's on the sauce be insistent that they use anti-doping testing so that he can cripple the other guy, take away his advantages?
Team Benavidez figures David Morrell is on the sauce, and so are they, but they know how to hide it.
Because they do, they're insistent on anti-doping testing to further the effort to cripple David Morrell. That's what it is. It's all theatrics. It's not about cleaning up the sport. It's about crippling your opponent.
It's what I think it is.
I stopped believing that all the anti-doping testing we're seeing in boxing is really geared towards cleaning up the sport. It's more like a racket.
Maybe it's more about blackmail and leverage. Maybe it's more about crippling the other guy or having dirt on a fighter.
When I see David Benavidez hooping and hollering about anti-doping testing for this fight while he's got Memo Heredia as his strength and conditioning coach, Yeah, give me a break.
It's theatrics.
Just another interesting element to mull over ahead of this fight.
Fury's got big assets in this fight. He's got to use them properly. Can he do it for every minute of a 12-round fight? Are the legs as good as they once were of Tyson Fury? Lots of questions to be answered again on Saturday night. For me, it's more Fury that has to change, and Usyk will adapt. But yeah, I mean, Usyk was great last time, and will he be as good again? We know Fury will have given everything to the training camp. He looks terrifically focused. He's locked everyone away, and that's what he should do, because he's lost for the first time in his life and he didn't like it. It's definitely that he's going to utilise that weight advantage and really try and smother Usyk's work and maybe try and attack the body. He's got to try and zap the energy of Usyk, but Usyk's an amazing athlete. His dedication is second to none, so that's going to be hard. And also, Sugar Hill told me at the press conference in London that they're going to go for the knockout. They have to go through him, and maybe he will try and do what he did to Deontay Wilder, but Alexander Usyk is a much better boxer, and it's going to be hard. And if he doesn't get rid of Usyk, Usyk's counter-punching is excellent, and if he's still there after 7-8 rounds, and Usyk and Fury's plan's not worked, then he could be in for trouble. But
most seem to expect a more earnest effort from Tyson Fury early on to get the knockout. Don't even let it go to the cards.
Adam Smith asked, are Tyson Fury's legs what they once were? If his plan is to come forward and lay into Alexander Usyk, then they don't need to be.
Because he's not trying to box him up, like he boxed up Vladimir Klitschko many years ago, boxed up Deontay Wilder in the first fight. He wants to fight more like he did in the second, coming forward, letting punches go, using his size, using his weight,
smothering Usyk's work.
Trying to, but by now we all know what the caveat is, because I've talked about it several times already. The caveat of getting off to a fast, aggressive start is you may burn out in the middle, towards the end, and fade down the stretch.
You're gonna burn through what energy reserves you have in the first 2 quarters of the fight.
Against a guy with a notoriously good engine that only seems to get stronger as a fight progresses. So what Usyk has to do is survive the early onslaught.
Work around Fury.
And simultaneously make him work. Which he already plans on doing.
I remember on the night of the fight, we come back to the hotel and we were talking. I remember my sort of initial feeling at the time was Usyk will win the rematch better now. He'll win it, clearer. But then on reflection, I'm not so sure. I think that now, Fury was excellent in his rematch, well, both rematches with Wilder. So he can make adjustments. He boxed the first time against Wilder. The second time he took the centre of the ring and backed him up. I wouldn't be one bit surprised if Fury did that this time. I thought he probably gave the first 3 rounds away by looking to box Usyk, and actually he let Usyk, warm right into the fight and get on top of him. I would imagine this time he'll look to take the play away from Usyk, and he'll look to boss it and take the centre of the ring.
Try to. So many obvious comparisons to how Tyson Fury changed from the first Wilder fight to the second, and it worked. It worked with Wilder, because Wilder is nowhere near as coordinated a fighter. He's not the athlete that Alexander Usyk is.
But much of this you heard from me already, after their initial meeting.
What did I tell you after the first Fury versus Usyk fight? If there's going to be a second, Fury's going to try to be aggressive next time. He's going to try to put on more weight to be the bigger guy, use that size, and come forward. Boxing didn't work.
He'll try for brawn.
Now, Anthony Joshua did practically the same thing. He tried to box with Usyk in the first fight, tried to bang him out in the second. Didn't work for Anthony.
Is it gonna work for Fury?
Pinning down Alexander Usyk is no easy assignment. He has arguably the best footwork in all of the heavyweight division.
Don't forget counterpunching.
The naturally smaller man in the fight as the bigger man bears down on him.
Is that really the way to go?
Right, Tyson Fury off. I think beating Alexander Usyk is going to be very tough. I think Tyson Fury can win this fight, but I think Alexander Usyk should win it. So yeah, it's for Tyson to change. He did everything right between rounds 4 and 7 last time. Can he continue that? Can he utilize the jab, the reach, the size advantage properly this time? Not sort of be lackadaisical at times like he was in the first fight. But will Alexander Usyk allow him to? I thought Usyk looked a little bit more powerful in training camp. I think they put a little bit of weight around the shoulders. So it'd be interesting to see if if he thinks maybe he can finish this within the distance, Usyk. It's a fascinating one, which we're all looking forward to here. And the week's only just getting underway. There's plenty more build up, lots to come, and then the two go into battle on Saturday night, and the world awaits.
So good to see Adam Smith calling fights again. That thoughtful analysis, as opposed to the predictable and lazy boxing takes we've grown used to. It's not that Tyson Fury doesn't stand a chance.
Especially after this past weekend's big upset in the men's super middleweight division. Who would have thought that a guy with 4 knockouts would be the one that stops Jaime Munguia for the first time?
Anything can happen in the sport of boxing. Anything can happen, and especially in the heavyweight division, where you're always one punch away from being knocked out and where the punches have more than 200 pounds behind them, close to 300 in the case of Tyson Fury. There's been a lot of talk around his weight and his size ahead of this rematch.
How do we know that's not going to cause him to burn out faster?
Had a live discussion about this just the other day, that in round 9, as Alexander Usyk is ragdolling Tyson Fury, and the ropes are the only thing that were holding Tyson Fury up, if he would have actually hit the deck, if he would have collapsed, would he have been able to rise to his feet?
I don't think so.
I think his equilibrium was so off that if he would have went down upon trying to get up, he would have been stumbling all over the place and they would have had no choice but to wave it off. And that was weighing what he weighed before. If the same thing happens in the rematch and he gets caught, he gets hurt, he gets dropped.
Say he goes down this time. Well, you're heavier now than you were before. It's going to be harder to get up.
So much of the focus ahead of the rematch is centered around what adjustments Tyson Fury is going to make, with not much attention to what adjustments Usyk can make. Do you think he's not seeing what we're seeing, or hearing what we're hearing?
You think him and his team haven't thought of this already? Tyson Fury tried to box us before. That didn't work. This time, he's going to try to knock us out. And this time, you notice that Usyk is a little bigger, seems to have more definition.
They both seem to be looking for the knockout. As crazy as this might sound, for the naturally smaller fighter that has to try to close the distance against the bigger man, when the bigger man is bearing down on him, it's actually easier for the smaller guy to land his punches, because he doesn't have to chase him, because he doesn't have to find him.
What got Sebastian Fundora knocked out in the Brian Mendoza fight might be what gets Tyson Fury knocked out this weekend.
Moving around and trying to box him up bought you time. It kept you in the fight.
It's not till you come forward and step into your punches that you got hurt and you got ragdolled. So if you're gonna start off with that, if you're gonna lead with that,
might get hurt faster this time. Ragdolled sooner.
Said that already.
Said that Tyson Fury hasn't spoken to his wife Paris in the last 3 months. He's cut everybody off to focus on his fight.
Just focus.
And they're now saying that Big John Fury, Fury's father, he won't be in his corner for this one. The chaos that we saw in the first fight, they don't want any of that for the second.
Just focus.
They are pulling out all the stops, doing everything they can. Am I convinced it'll be enough? Not really.
This is what I told you they would do.
Come in bigger, be aggressive, use your size, impose your will. You can go back to the videos I did right around the first fight. This is what I said they would do.
I said it then. I don't think it's going to be enough.